Since the beginning of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, President Vladimir Putin has relied heavily on China, particularly its president, Xi Jinping, to support his war economy, primarily through oil purchases. But that dynamic may now be changing. Despite deepening ties between Moscow and Beijing since February 2022, recent developments suggest a significant shift. Xi appears to be scaling back China's support, potentially dealing a severe blow to the Russian economy. Central to this development is oil, Russia's most vital export, still flowing to countries that haven't imposed heavy sanctions. Western nations, including the US and EU, have levied over 24,000 sanctions on Russia, with the vast majority introduced after the invasion began. Many specifically target Russia's oil sector, which remains a lifeline for its economy. While countries like India, Turkey, and even some EU members continue to buy Russian oil, China stands as the biggest customer, purchasing nearly half of Russia's crude exports. In 2024 alone, Russian oil and gas revenues contributed approximately $108 billion to the federal budget, with nearly $50 billion attributed to Chinese purchases. However, this financial relationship may now be in jeopardy. According to Professor Scott Lucas of University College Dublin, China has begun reducing its oil imports from Russia, a strategic move influenced by increasing US pressure, particularly threats of secondary sanctions. Several Chinese state-run firms, including Sinopec, Genhua Oil, PetroChina, and CNOOC, have reportedly reduced or suspended their purchases of Russian oil. The timing is crucial. If China pulls back entirely, Russia could lose billions in monthly revenue, just as it faces mounting war costs and dwindling foreign reserves. The root of this shift may lie in US political developments. Former President Donald Trump recently warned of sweeping secondary sanctions targeting any country buying Russian oil. This poses a serious threat to China's economy, which remains heavily reliant on trade with the US. In 2024, China earned nearly $439 billion from US trade, an economic tie it can't afford to jeopardize. To avoid further strain, Xi appears to be recalibrating. China has also been facing its own trade challenges, including a 54% tariff package from the US, prompting Beijing to retaliate with tariffs of its own. Amid this tense backdrop, China seems unwilling to risk further isolation by maintaining close oil ties with Russia. Yet, China's approach remains multifaceted. While cutting oil imports, it still supplies Russia with dual-use goods like microelectronics and drone components, supporting Russia's military-industrial complex indirectly. But China's refusal to provide direct military aid allows Xi to maintain plausible deniability and avoid openly antagonizing the West. This balancing act underscores Xi's strategy, keeping China's economic interests at the forefront while exploiting relationships for geopolitical advantage. As Professor Lucas notes, Beijing is playing all sides, backing Russia just enough to benefit from the relationship, while signaling openness to peace negotiations and maintaining trade with Ukraine. China's recent moves, reducing oil imports, maintaining ties with Ukraine, and offering to mediate peace talks, suggest a deliberate distancing from Putin. While some analysts believe China is covertly propping up Russia's military, others argue the signs point to a more transactional relationship. Xi's actions may also serve a secondary purpose, diverting global attention from China's assertive moves in Taiwan. Recent Chinese military drills near Taiwan have gone relatively unnoticed compared to the Russia-Ukraine conflict, possibly by design. In the end, Xi's strategy seems clear: act in China's best interest, avoid being dragged into a losing war, and maintain flexibility on the world stage. Putin, meanwhile, may be realizing that China's support comes with strings attached, and that it can be withdrawn at any moment. If the US enforces secondary sanctions, and China continues to cut Russian oil imports, the economic fallout from Moscow could be severe. Whether this marks a permanent split or a tactical pause remains to be seen. But one thing is clear: Xi is not standing firmly by Putin's side. He's playing a calculated game.